Hi, I'm Shruti.
Hi, I'm Shukti.
Hi, I'm Shreeya, and welcome back to Need a Natter. Woo, woo, woo.
And this is a big one for us because we finally reached episode 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yay, we're in double figures, guys.
Woohoo!
Double figures. Special one for us.
And thank you for all of you who've joined us in our journey so far. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, tell your friends.
Yay.
And like, share, and subscribe.
Share. Like I said in the last episode, Natter back.
Natter back, exactly. So, guys, what have you been up to? Quick catch up.
I just had a normal day at work today, and then the kids were home when I finished work, so spent a bit of time with them, had a little bit of a chit chat, made some food, and literally just got them to sleep. And now it's like the house is really peaceful and quiet, which is nice. How about the two of you?
So me and Shukti went to go play tennis this morning. We booked a court again, and we went, and there was no one else there. No one else had booked out any courts. It was really nice, and we got to be loud and obnoxious and have fun. And we caught the attention of some passing by dog walkers and their dogs. And well, actually, they caught my attention.
And the caretaker there looked like Mr. Filch from Harry Potter.
From Harry Potter, he really did.
Oh,
Shukti couldn't get over it. She was like, "Oh my god, it's literally Mr. Filch." Like she wouldn't start playing.
He had the same hair. Can you imagine?
maybe it was intentional.
Maybe
that's the look he's going for.
Yeah, could be. He looked exactly the same. It was bizarro.
Shukti was literally like, if he has a cat, I'm gonna go nuts. Like, I'm gonna lose it. Mrs. Norris just creeps around the corner.
Caretakers have cats.
Yeah, generally they come as a pair.
Yeah.
But then after that, after tennis, Shreeya, Mum, Ba, and I, we all went to do some tasting, some food tasting,
Yum yum.
to cater for the wedding. And oh my word, did they stuff us up?
Oh yeah.
Proper. So it was like essentially they served us one portion each, not one portion between us so we can all have a bite each, one portion each of everything that they're going to serve on the day of the wedding. So we ate a whole day's worth of food in one sitting. So there was like all the starters they're going to serve, all the canapes, all the mains, all the desserts. And the funny thing was when after he'd finished serving us the starters and the canapes, to be honest, we just thought, we didn't really think about it because we're not that demanding as a family,
we
to
thought
be
that
honest.
was it, to be honest, didn't we?
Yeah, we thought that was it. So as soon as he was like, and it was no joke, about 7 or 8 things that we had. So yeah, about 7 or 8 things each. Okay, starters. We're small people. Like we got stuffed. We were already like stuffed. I had to take breaks in between each of these 7 or 8 starters that we were eating. I had to keep taking breaks, and then we had a cup of tea with it as well because obviously we have to have a cup of tea. It was a bit rainy today, so we needed a cup of tea. So after we finished the starters, the guy, bless him, he like looked at us and he said, "Are you ready for your mains?" And we were like, "No!" And he literally said, "Well, I'm going to bring it out anyway because it's already made." So we were like, "Oh no!"
Oh my god!
So we're going to have
He
to
literally
actually
said, "You're going to have to eat it anyway."
I know we talk about it a lot, but this is like the goodness gracious me skit when Nina Wadia keeps stuffing the faces of her guests.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to us.
Come on. Then she goes, have you done with your starters? And everyone looks at each other going, what, there's more? She's like, come on, eat.
Yeah, no, it was insane. And then we got 2 desserts each as well. So, I mean, we left there very, very sleepy and very, very full.
Yeah.
Oh, it was all really nice. And if we do go ahead with this company, I will definitely recommend everyone, all the vendors that we've gone with, I'll just put them out there so you guys can all share and take some offers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, these guys were really good. So they have been shortlisted for sure. But anyway, after that, we went for a walk in the woods with Mum as well.
We did.
Yeah, for about 40 minutes, but then it started raining. But we went foraging as well. We found some berries.
Oh yeah, we did.
Some nice berries.
Oh, nice.
So we picked up some
berries. You could just foraged in my garden.
We said that
berries.
when we were doing it.
Yeah, we did.
But ours were surrounded by a lot of honeybees, and there's been a couple of bee attacks in the UK. I don't know how else to put it. But there's a lot of people I know who have been attacked by bees, and some people I don't know personally, but I've heard of who've been attacked by bees. And I'm like, I'm scared of bees now. Irrational fear loading. So I just kept the kids inside, and I said, okay, when we're going to probably have to do it on an evening or something,
or on a drizzly day like today. You could have done
on a drizzly day. So like even today when it rained, it poured down. So
anyways, shall we plod on ladies.
Pudding.
We can
Yes.
probably just talk nonsense for this entire hour.
We should maybe do that for one episode.
We do the whole day anyway.
We've got a very, very important topic for today, actually. It's quite a serious one after the fun, light-hearted one we had last time, although it's probably not as serious as some of the other ones we've gone through. But we're talking about the immigrant experience, which everybody who's involved with this podcast has experienced. When did we individually become aware of what our identity was and where we're from?
I think for me, it's been a very gradual thing. So basically, we used to be located in the south of England, right, before. And when we were there, it wasn't very evident at all that we're not in a country where we don't originate from, because everybody was a different shade of brown. So we didn't really understand. Everyone kind of spoke two languages, which was their mother tongue, whatever that may be, which generally was something that we were able to understand, and English. There was no kind of issue with communication with anyone either. After a while, we moved up to the north of England, and I think that's when I realised. Actually, I don't even think I did realise then, but it was just more evident when you look at pictures that, okay, I'm different to all the other people, the Caucasian people that were around. I don't know, it's really tricky, this one, isn't it? It is tricky. I'm not sure when I figured it out.
I thought it'd be a good way to kind of like start it off to get us thinking. But what about you, Shreeya? What was your experience?
I don't think I realised until quite some time. It was probably when you were looking for a husband that I started to realise what we are. Until then, I didn't even ask what we are. I just kind of went with it. And then when you were starting thinking about, oh, this is important to me, this is important to me, what's important to us as a family and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, is that what we are? Because I was always confused and I was too embarrassed to ask, to be honest. So I don't think I knew until I was about 8 as to what we are. And that's kind of where I was like, oh, so that's what I am. That's where my identity kind of built from. As for being different to the people around me, that didn't kick in until I think key stage 2ish, because that's when you start learning more about different cultures, like at school. At least it was for me that way. We didn't really learn about anyone else until then. We did have one international student that came in. I don't know if it was like an exchange program or something, but she came over for like just a couple of terms and we kind of spoke about her culture. She was from China. And that was the only time that we really spoke about anything else. And then it was in key stage 3 that we started learning about more religious studies and all that kind of stuff. And it started to come into motion there, because then I was being asked like, oh, how are things at home? What languages do you speak? How do you celebrate this, that, and the other? And then I was explaining to the rest of the class, or I was sometimes correcting the teachers. And that's kind of where it started for me. And then I realised that people were sometimes mistaking me for a different group of people or a different community around year 6ish. And then I was like, no, this entire time I've been friends with you, you thought I was a different community. That's interesting. So it was, things like that. That's probably where I started to, key stage 2ish for me.
And it's probably important to point out that you didn't make that move with us from the south to the north. Kind of all.
So I didn't see that kind of divide almost that you guys might have experienced coming from there to here and being different to the people around you appearance wise. I didn't have that. I was already brought up in that kind of environment.
It's so weird because when we moved from where we used to live in the south of England to the north, I was 8 years old and I was very aware that there was differences between ethnicities, but I always thought that everyone kind of got on and my identity was kind of like within that mix. It wasn't like I wasn't very aware that I was different or I was unique in any way. I just thought I was one of the crowd. I definitely was, because there was only one white Caucasian boy in our class.
Oh, wow.
That's how diverse my class was down south. And then when I moved up north and we went to a predominantly Caucasian school, and on top of that it was a Christian school as well. So again, I didn't think that I was very different, but the first time that someone brought up the fact that I seemed different was based on my accent, because obviously I didn't have a northern accent. I probably still don't, but I didn't have the accent that everybody else had. Apart from that, a lot of people hadn't ever come across someone of my ethnicity before, and there was another Indian girl in my class, and I actually got very happy. I'm like, oh, I gravitated towards her and I started talking to her about like Bollywood films and things that I was interested in, and she looked at me like, what are you talking about? And then I realised that probably for survival, and I'm not going to judge her for this, but I think for her own personal survival and sanity, she hid a lot of her ethnicity from other people. So she pretended that she was, she didn't know another language, when we found out later she actually did, and all that kind of stuff, but she hid that from all the peers. Whereas I was the kind of person who, from being very, very proud of my background, or not even, I wouldn't even call it pride, it was like, that was acknowledging of my background to somebody who had to kind of like suppress it a little because no one wanted to know about it or hear about it. And when people had questions about it was very strange. Like one girl came up to me and she's like, what kind of music do you listen to? Is it that twang nonsense? And
wow.
I think for me, it was very, very difficult, coming to terms with my identity at that stage. And I think it made the entire kind of puberty, kind of that period, very, very difficult for me. Because again, it was like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, why are you like this? Why are your arms so hairy and all that kind of stuff? And I'm like, I'm not blonde. So it was one of those.
That's really surprising because we went to the same school at the same time and I never had anything like that.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, it was the same kind of thing, that there were not any other colours in my year. It was just me. And, there might have been a girl that was half Turkish and half Caucasian. So it wasn't that evident that she had any mix in her. But that was it. Other than that, it was just me. I never had any questions like that. In fact, I mean, I didn't realise that there was any difference. Genuinely, I didn't even realize it. That's why it's so difficult for me to understand when did it dawn on me. Because when we started learning classical dance as well, when we started learning Bharatanatyam, I was so proud of it. I used to go to school and then teach my friends how to do it as well. And I was like, oh, I went to this new dance class. Do you want to learn? And then they'd learn, and they used to come over and they'd listen to like Bollywood songs with me and stuff. So I didn't experience any kind of weird questions. However, later in life, when with the dance academy, so we have the dance academy as well, when I used to go and do school workshops in parts of England that are not so diverse, there were some weird questions that you'd get. So they'd ask me, things like in schools, like, and I'm not talking like reception year 1 kids, I'm talking about like year 5, year 6 kids, when I feel like you should know a bit better. Like they'd ask me, oh right, okay, so you're Indian, so do you speak Indian? And I'm like, that's not a language. And I feel like at that age you should be a bit more aware, at least know what's not a language. You know what I mean? If someone says a word to you that is Indian a language, you should know that it's not a language. Then I guess that's the fault of the school. But this area that we were teaching in was not diverse at all. There was no one, everyone was the same colour completely. So
Also,
it's understandable. It's understandable that they didn't know, but
I've got a theory as to why different experience, and I think it's to do with the fact that you joined that school when you were 4 years old, and children are way more accepting and they don't see differences when they're that young.
They are, but at the same time, don't forget, kids at that age repeat what they hear at home. For example, your little girl will repeat everything. She'll repeat whatever you do at home. Her teachers know. And again, the parents were really good. My best friend in primary school was the rector's daughter. And we went to a really strict church school, and obviously we're not Christians, but they were still really welcoming and really, I wouldn't say welcoming, because for welcoming you have to acknowledge that a person's come from outside. It wasn't even welcoming, it was just, you just blend right in. So
but even so, I mean, like the point that you raised about children repeating what they hear at home, sometimes at the age of 4 or 5 they don't do it consciously, they're just parroting it off. Whereas I think the children that I was integrating with or trying to integrate with, they were older and they had that knowledge. They knew exactly what holes they were picking when they were directing these questions at me. They knew that I was different and they didn't want to be associated with me because they already had friend groups as well. That's another thing, because you were just developing yours at the age of 4, weren't you?
No, but that's what I mean, that like even if the kids were too young, parents sometimes in areas that are not that diverse tend to be judgmental of a new kid of a different colour coming in. And there was no judgment like that was passed on to me, at least.
Yeah, my son, at his age, and he's 7, it's only just been mentioned in a derogatory way. Like someone's race has been brought up in a derogatory way in his classroom now. In the past, if it did, it's both a lack of acknowledgement and knowledge of the person who's perhaps giving the slur plus the person who's receiving the slur. Neither of you would have the awareness of what's being discussed. When you get to 7 or 8, you both kind of know what's being discussed is wrong or right, or whatever your slant on it is. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's probably why it was a bit more comfortable for you, it's kind of blending in than it was for me, because it was, I'd be honest, I thought it was not a very pleasant experience at the beginning. Once I found my footing, it was. I think this is probably an important point to make now as well, basically what our ethnicity and background is. So we are obviously of Indian origin. However, on our dad's side and on my, like his paternal kind of lineage, no one has lived in India for about, I want to say, I might be counting incorrectly, 4 generations, maybe 5 now. Because it was our great granddad who on our dad's side who moved out of India first and went to East Africa. So we are, from that side of the family, we are kind of that much removed from our ancestral history, if you like. On our mum's side, we're still very connected because our mum's family still lives over in India. But from our dad's side, we're perhaps a little not as connected. So what do you guys feel is different about our experience to perhaps other people's experiences as a result of that?
The mix of Swahili in our language.
Yeah, it's
The mixture of Swahili, like today, even with the caterer, we had a whole conversation about, is Mogo Swahili or Hindi?
Yeah.
Or is it some other language that we don't know about? So Mogo,
What
guys,
do they call it in India then?
Yeah, people who don't know what Mogo is, it's a vegetable. In English, it's called cassava. It's not it's not exactly popular amongst anyone apart from people who have ever lived in Africa.
Yeah.
So our family, because we've come via Africa, like our granddad, our dad were born in East Africa. So now that's become a part of our diet as a treat. We don't often find it in shops. But when we do find it, everyone gets excited, like, oh, let's see, mogo. So we don't actually know what the correct word for it is, or other things like jugu instead of peanuts, madafu instead of coconut. This is all Swahili. Marage instead of rajma or kidney beans. We've got a blend of 3 different cultures that we're living in. Then on top of that, Mum's culture from the north of India is not the same as Ba's culture from his Indian connections either. So we're actually a blend of 5 different cultures, 4 or 5 different cultures actually mixed together. So it's quite interesting. And now on top of that, I'm in Mumbai, so the Mumbai culture is also getting adopted in some places. Like everybody suddenly in our family really likes pav bhaji now, and now makes it at home when we never grew up eating pav bhaji ever.
And
Like it was, and vada pav, and so now we've added the Mumbai culture to it as well.
Our food was always very, very blended because I think the East African culture, or the kind of culture that we brought with us from East Africa, it kind of like adapted from the other people who lived in the locality. So our dad's family, although they're Punjabi, they lived in the same locality as a lot of Gujarati people. And as a result, all our snacks were kind of Gujarati without us knowing, without us realizing for the longest time. Plus, we had a lot of exposure to South Indian food. I don't know where that came from.
I have realised while being in India that North Indian people love South Indian food. Okay, so like they love it. Wherever I've shot, whether it's in the Himalayas or whether it's in other parts of India, I've never shot in South of India. By shot, I mean filmed in South India. And on every set, bar none, there is dosa for breakfast. Bar none. It's all, and even when we come to the UK as well, when we hire Indian catering for the filming, there's always a South Indian option for breakfast. So, I mean, North Indian people love South Indian food.
Although I do feel like a bit of an anomaly in the United Kingdom, and I don't know if you two agree with me when I say this, but I think that a lot of people, when they came directly from India, they didn't have this blend of the Indian subcontinent, or like from South Asia, anywhere in South Asia, they didn't have that acknowledgement or that viewpoint of the entire country, or they hadn't lived with other Indians or other South Asians. So they don't have that blend, and they assume that everybody else is like them. So like, for example, when we met the Gujarati community where we live, they assumed everybody to be Gujarati and understand the language. And when they talk about back home, they talk about Gujarat. And they think that's, all people of this religion are from Gujarat, for example, which isn't accurate at all.
Yeah.
And I think we had more of a knowledge of that growing up. And I don't know if that's because we had the East African connect or what really.
I think it was also to do with Mum being from New Delhi and having, this is what I think anyway, this is my theory on it, is that Mum not being from Punjab, she was from New Delhi. Then she grew up a lot in Lucknow as well.
Yeah.
And then she moved to Punjab eventually. So she herself has grown up in 3 different places, right? Whereas a lot of people who do come from India have just grown up in one region. So they wouldn't talk to their kids about other regions. They've never been there or whatever. There does seem to be a disconnect somewhere in communication about with the immigrant community, with the when it comes to communicating with the next generation who's born and raised abroad. There does seem to be a bit of a disconnect. I feel like or maybe it's just that our parents talk to us a lot. Especially I used to make it a point every day to sit us down and at least for half an hour talk to us about, it could be about anything. You know, and I say half an hour, it doesn't sound like a long time, but that was half an hour one-on-one time, specifically one-on-one time. No one else is allowed to disrupt us or come into the room at the time. It was one-on-one, and we talk about anything. And a lot of it would be about Bar's experience growing up, or what this is, what that is, what this means, what, and how was school, how was blah blah blah. So it accumulates to a lot of hours of nattering, really, doesn't
What
it?
you said about mom was really interesting. I never even considered that she has grown up in 3 different regions, and that could be why we have so much knowledge of those regions that she's come from.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd want to point out as well is that a lot of people who came here, they got so involved in the hustle, like trying to make, ends meet and everything, that they weren't able to give that time to their kids because they were working shift patterns and everything. So the kind of knowledge that was passed down was very, half baked almost.
Yeah.
And I only realised that when I went to university and met other people of, similar backgrounds to us who had absolutely no idea about, their religion or culture or anything like that. Whereas I think we grew up knowing about every religion and every kind of, in a broad sense, not in a very, microscopic sense. We didn't know it, very granularly, but we did have broad strokes. We understood everything, I think.
Yeah. I think a part to play in that could also be that we were, like, our grandma had a big hand in raising us. So I think when she would tell us stories that were, India based, so we'd kind of know language that other people might not have picked up on because it was very like hardcore Punjabi. And when you think about those stories now, like, we all know them off by heart, it's not really in the type of Punjabi that people speak here anymore because it's become a bit of a blend, hasn't it? But also, just now, I just want to touch on this. That, so like Did said, our family on far side have been, since our great granddad, great granddad was the first one to move out of India. And now the next generation after us is like coming up. And on our mum's side, she was the first one out from her family to come abroad to the UK. And now, so lots of people say, an observation that a lot of people make is that Indians who live abroad are stuck in a time warp of whatever period it was that they left India.
Yeah.
Or whatever country. Not necessarily Indians. I'd probably say it's probably something you could say about all immigrant families, right? That they get stuck in a time warp. And the country that they've left has moved on. And we now have a little hybrid culture going on, right?
Yeah.
So what are your lots of observations on that? Do you think that's accurate or what?
To a certain extent it is, because I do feel that we're very, more so than religion, rooted in culture, or there's a lot of like cultural undertones to everything that we do, like conduct wise. And it's not necessarily, the words that I used in the other episode when I said bringing shame, it wasn't necessarily that, but it's kind of like what is proper, or what is in sync with what we want to do. I know that Veer Das, who's like a Indian comedian, made this observation recently. I know that he mentioned it recently in an interview. I think he was being a bit harsh. I don't think it's quite to the extent that he was saying, in the sense that we're so stuck in a time warp, we don't have any knowledge of India. I think we do. I think a lot of us are connected. I think we're connected for sure. So I don't think it's true for everybody, but it might be true for some people. I don't think it's, I don't think it's to the extent that was mentioned in that interview, for example.
Yeah, I don't really think it's true. I actually think, now I can't talk about all immigrant families, okay? I can talk about ours.
Yeah.
And I can talk about our extended family. I'd say what we have been quite lucky to have is we've been given a lot of, again, conversation. Our family is quite chatty, okay? And that doesn't mean that we just talking nonsense all day like we do at the beginning of each podcast when we're just catching up. I'm not talking about that. I mean, we're always exchanging notes about things. So I feel like we are more aware of India as a country. And this is my observation after having worked with a lot of Indians, and especially the ones that, come from the same background as like Punjabi Indians and whatever. Like that, this is my observation, that sometimes, a lot of the time, sorry, they don't know why certain rituals happen, and they kind of like turn their nose up at it, or they turn their nose up at lots of cultural things, or even language. even, the languages that are spoken or whatever. And this doesn't necessarily happen with the immigrant families, because we have been, actually, I can't talk about the immigrant families. I can just talk about our family. That's not happened with our family. I feel like our family, extended family, is more aware of what is happening. Why do we do a particular ritual? Why do we not do a particular ritual? And, why is this frowned upon? Why is this acceptable? We are more aware of it, basically, because a lot of conversation, a lot of effort has been made by the older generation to pass that knowledge on to us. Now, when I talk about the people that I've interacted with, for example, okay, what I've realized is that kids growing up in the cities in India are not as aware of the rural parts of the country, right? And as they'd mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, I can't remember which one now, she'd mentioned whenever we used to go back to India originally, before I started working in Mumbai, we used to go to the villages as well, like, the rural parts. And a lot of immigrant families do that because that's where their family comes from, right?
Yeah.
So they're more in tune with the lifestyle of the majority of the country. Whereas I feel like people living in India, for example, some of our cousins have never been out of the village that they live in.
Yeah.
They've never been to a big city. They've never been to Mumbai. A lot of Mumbai people have not been out of Mumbai to see rural India either. So I feel like there is a huge kind of misunderstanding when it comes to, Veerdar saying they don't know what real India is. I mean, I'd like to know if he knows what real India is as well.
And also, I'd love to understand what he thinks our lives are like, because I think that's very misrepresented, especially in like Indian films that I've seen that are supposed to be about us. I don't think they represent us well at all. I mean, if you look at something like, a Karan Johar film where, we all live in grand houses, it's not true to our experience at all. I don't even think they try with accents or lifestyle, anything like that. They don't even attempt it. Plus, there's this obsession with trying to pass off girls who are mixed race as Indians living abroad, because that's the perception they have of Indians living abroad, which is just insanity because genetically we're the same.
Yeah.
It's really odd. And I'm like, it's like they are making a judgment on, people abroad they don't really know what we're about. They're so warped in their understanding without actually understanding us or taking the time to understand us. Now, I mean, look, films that represent us well are things like Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh yeah.
And, I'm trying to think of another example. I can't really think of one. East is East is a good representation.
I don't think East is East represents me at all. I'm not. No, I just want to say our family is not like the families in East is East, but yes.
I'm talking for the immigrant community at large.
The houses used to be like that. The kind of,
gosh.
the conversations used to be like that, I guess, back in the day. But no, I think you're right on that. But another film was, when we watched it for the first time, we did feel that DDLJ was a good representation at the time. Now, obviously, we were really little when this movie was doing the rounds. We were quite young. So we could kind of relate to having strict parenting. You can't wear these clothes, but you can wear them, like you can tell your mum and then just kind of wear them without your dad knowing. Or we could kind of relate. Oh God, I hope Bar's not listening to this. But but we could kind of relate to that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So that was kind of on point. That, the obsession that parents had with, India, maybe this kabutar has come from my country, which ironically enough I think about all the time when I'm in Mumbai. I'm like, I wonder if this crow came from the UK to see me.
So you're having the reverse. You're having the reverse experience,
I
aren't you?
have the reverse problem that Amrish Puri had in DDLJ. Like, I step out onto the airport in the UK and I take a big inhale and I'm like, my dharti, I'm back. You know what I mean? And I'm not even joking. You both know it. You both know
it. Joking. She does do this. As soon as she steps out of the airport, she's like, "Oh, the air is so crisp."
Yeah, I do. Because I mean, ultimately, home is home. Wherever you think your home is, that's your home. It doesn't really matter. Nothing else matters. I don't think I've had much of a problem with being from an immigrant family. The only thing that winds me up sometimes is, for example, when I'm in the UK, people who don't know me will say, "Oh, are you going back to India?" And I'm like,
Going back home.
"Yeah, are you going back home? Sorry, not back to India. Are you going back home?" And I'm like, "Well, no, my home is here, I'm going to work. That kind of winds me up, but then it doesn't really get to me too much because I know that they don't mean it. They just don't know. They don't know what my life is about or whatever.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've not had much of an issue with it. Shreya, have you?
No, I really haven't. I mean, I know Bar has had a lot of issues being here since he's been here. I can't really relate to that. I've not had any issues
Yeah.
being who we are at all.
But now, having said that, right, so I feel like immigrants in the UK have gone through like a wave, okay?
Yeah.
In the 80s, when a whole load of people came, right, there was tension
Yeah.
when they first came. There were, you know, the skinheads that were known to just be terrible. Then it settled down, and the settling down period is when the three of us were growing up, and there wasn't that much tension at all. It was quite happy, happy integration, all of that, and everyone made an effort on both sides.
Yeah.
The immigrant side and the British people made a big effort to, at least, even if they're not feeling great about having different colours join their community, we didn't know about it. We actually didn't
They
know.
weren't vocal.
Yeah, they weren't vocal. We didn't know about it. But now, since Brexit, don't you think there's been a huge change?
Yeah, definitely. There has. And I think as a community, we're very resilient. And our resilience is just because of the fact that we had that collective experience of coming here and having to work super, super hard. You have to work harder. We were always told you have to work harder than the Indigenous population to kind of prove your worth.
Yeah.
And we were fine doing that. I don't think we ever had any problem with that. We just work very, very hard, and it's worked well for us as a community. However, I just think that, again, when we talk about the gender-based assumptions as well, I think we've regressed massively in terms of the cultural cohesion that we saw previously is regressed. And I do understand parts of the debate, but holistically I can't get on board with it because I don't think that we are any threat to the UK identity. I think we enrich it quite fabulously.
I think we is quite a broad term. I think there's lots of people that I'll give you an example. Okay, so just now doing the rounds is a video of a guy going into the ISKCON restaurant with a bucket of KFC, right? Knowing fully well that the ISKCON premises is pure vegetarian, and and ISKCON, frankly, is a very respectful group of people, right? They are generally like quite la-di-da, kind of keep themselves to themselves.
Do you want to give a background just for people who might not know what ISKCON means?
It's a branch of Hinduism, basically. You know, people kind of renounce the world and join this, Krishna consciousness movement. And they have like temples and, Hindu temples and stuff in their name. And then also they have I think there's a restaurant that's attached to...
It's called Govindas.
Yeah, called Govindas. And it's a pure vegetarian restaurant because generally Hindu religious places, generally as in, I mean, I don't know any that serve meat. You're not supposed to. As far as I know, you're not supposed to. So in this restaurant as well, it's vegetarian. I think the proceeds go to the charities and whatever. So it's like it's all a good thing. And a guy has just gone in there with a bucket of KFC just to rile people up for no reason. Like, why in God's name would you do that when no one is forcing the vegetarian food down your throat? No one is harassing you for eating your KFC. You can eat it in peace. Generally, you can't go into a restaurant with another restaurant's food anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would you do this?
It's a blatant attack on a religious kind of ideology, if you like, because he knows full well that this is a religious place and there's obviously a reason why meat is not served there. So why would you target a particular religious establishment? Like, imagine that happening to, I'm not even going to name names here, but just imagine if the followers of the particular religion were more vocal or more violent, what the consequences of that would be. He's picked on them because they're a soft target. I'm glad that people are talking about it though, because we've obviously shown that we're not that non-vocal. There is some discourse on it, not in a violent way.
Exactly.
No, but it was bad, and that's what we're saying, that it comes in waves. And we kind of, our parents dealt with, when they first moved to the UK, they dealt with the kind of nastiness that came with immigration, then with the locals. Then we reaped the benefits of that integration that they did. And now everybody, I think because there was another surge of immigrants that came through, right, that has rubbed everybody up the wrong way. The local people, I mean, even the existing immigrant families that were here from before, from the 70s and 80s, that's rubbed them up the wrong way as well, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad that this is what's happening now. I feel like it should have been controlled at an earlier stage before things got ugly. But I do feel like it's getting there now. It is getting quite ugly. You know what it is, right? When you go on Instagram or when you go on any other social media platform and there's any trouble kicking off anywhere, okay, any trouble at all, if you read the comments, it's always some racial remark about how, oh, I bet these guys are some kind of ethnic group, right? Any ethnic group, whatever. It can just be any racial term that they use, a derogatory racial term even, that they use underneath, and without even thinking that it could just be like, unfortunately, there was an incident that occurred in the UK where there was some girls that were attacked, and I think it was an MP or something like that who'd put out a statement or a tweet or an X even, whatever, about how, oh yeah, I bet it was so and so group of people or something, some really irresponsible thing. Don't quote me on this.
It was an
some irresponsible comment, and then it just the news spread like wildfire that it must be an immigrant community that's committed this crime, and that did cause a lot of disruption in the community, didn't it? There were protests. There was all kinds of nonsense happening.
There was violence.
There was violence.
There was violence.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Turns out, no, it was a British person that did this, and born and raised British person that did this, and it had nothing to do with the immigrant community at all. But I do think there has to be some responsibility on both sides to continue the integration as smooth as it used to be, because it's really sad to see that, you know, I've never heard in my life ever heard anybody make a derogatory remark towards me or towards anybody that I'm around in a derogatory way. I'm not saying quoting goodness gracious me like we've spoken about before. I'm not talking about something that's said in jest. I'm saying something that's said consciously a derogatory way. I've never experienced. However, I know that, for example, Bid's little boy has heard something, or someone in his class said something was said, and that's so sad.
Yeah.
It wasn't recent, but someone verbally attacked me on a bus a little while ago.
Really?
As well. Racially, yeah, racially.
What happened?
It was basically these girls were picking on this boy who was younger, and they looked like they were older teens. And it was when I used to work in town, and I was just catching the bus home, so I was dressed in like work attire, so very obviously older than these girls. And I just said, can you please cut it out, because that boy was near, you know, like he was almost in tears. He was wearing a school uniform, and I just thought it was really, really horrible what they were doing. And they said, shut up, you racial remark, insert here. And that's the first time that's happened to me as an adult. Now, as a child as well, although it didn't happen with, I don't think either of you encountered it. Although when we first moved up to the northern part of England, I did encounter some racial remarks, or people saying things like, your name must be Brownie because you're brown. That was actually said to me in the playground on my first day at my primary school.
Really?
Oh, God.
And it was like, I didn't even know how to react to that, because I was like, what are you talking about? I'd never been aware of my colour even, which is a really weird thing, because I remember being at uni and one of my uni mates said, oh my God, did you just notice that? And I said, what? Notice what? And she said, oh, you were the only person of colour in that room. I was like, no, I didn't feel it. But then she'd notice, like, this particular friend of mine, she would notice microaggressions towards me, which I didn't notice. Like someone barging in front of me in a queue.
Yeah.
That person wouldn't have done that to you if you were white. And it's nothing that I ever was conscious of, or I'm still not. But she noticed it.
Yeah.
Which I found really interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there is stuff like that. I'm sure there is a lot of stuff. That's why I said before that if they have a problem, they don't show it openly.
But there is that entire social media prevalence now, so people can hide behind whatever they want. They can create a persona and hide behind it and say whatever they want, and that's where people's true intentions come out, and where all of these kinds of narratives are being built up. So I think, you know, like the entire thing about Brexit, it was all fear-mongering really, because we know that from the first wave of migration, when our parents arrived here from wherever they were respectively, so India and Africa, when they arrived here, they could not have done more to integrate with the community.
Yeah.
We always celebrate Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas I think a lot of other people might be resistant to, that's a different culture, it's a different religion, we don't want to be part of that, we don't want to be associated with it. We were like, no, we love it. And till date, we love Christmas.
Not just Christmas, Easter, Harvest Festival.
Yeah.
Like we were involved with everything.
Bonfire night.
Bonfire night, yeah. One of my favourite things ever is bonfire night. And we have been a part of it and active in all the other kind of families who are immigrant families have all tried to be a part of it. There are some that kind of stay away, and I think they're the ones that let the side down a little bit.
But I think that a lot of those people from the second wave of immigrants, for international listeners, bonfire night is something very specific to the UK.
Yeah.
So it's like 4th of July, or for Indian listeners, it's like the Sarah and Ravan being burnt.
Yeah, kind
it's really similar to that.
But I mean, it's quite funny because I actually feel like more of an imposter in Mumbai than I do in the UK.
Oh.
Which is quite funny. I guess no one would have thought that that's what the thing is, because my accent, it stands out a mile when I'm over there.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody always asks me that, and I don't mind it. The way our parents had the pride of being Indian or African or whatever when they were in the UK, I have the pride of being British. I identify as a British person. I'm not going to lie. Not necessarily just a British person, a British Indian, the hybrid that I am, which is that we're a different community.
Yeah.
We're neither, and we're not neither either. It's quite strange. We're both. We're both. Exactly, we're both. So I completely identify as a British person who's of Indian origin. So when I am in Mumbai, which obviously is in India, my accent stands out, my mannerisms stand out, my
sense of humour,
which we've spoken about before. And Shreeya actually had a funny incident. Not funny, it's actually really annoying. But like, do you want to tell the story yourself?
Yeah, if it's the one that I think you're on about.
It will be.
Yeah, I went to go visit Shukti for a while, started getting involved in what she does. I don't know why, really. I think just for a bit of fun. Someone that was there, I was speaking to them, and I could tell in her eyes that she wasn't listening to me. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, why is she inspecting my face like this? And then when I finished talking, she didn't really respond. And then she just went, where are you from? And I was like, what? And she's like, she was like, I don't understand. She's like, you look Indian, but your accent isn't Indian. And I was like, yeah, because I'm Indian, but I'm from England. And she's like, how does that work? And it was that moment, like in Mean Girls, when she's like, if you're from Africa, then why aren't you white? It was like that. she basically said that without saying it. Like, you're from England, so why aren't you white? Like, why do you look Indian? And I was just like, okay, let me break it down. I was like, so my parents are Indian, and I wasn't about to go into the whole, but I was born in Africa. Also, just skip that part.
That would have confused the life out of that poor girl.
I've got a story for that one as well. And then so I was like, so my parents are Indian, and they had me in England, so I'm Indian. I was just born in England, and then it took us like 3 seconds. I could literally hear her go tick 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 in her head, and then she was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, okay.
That exact same thing happened to me at work. So we had an external call centre for our IT department, and I once called them up for a technical issue. And the guy on the other end was saying, if you don't mind me asking, your name is Indian, and you look Indian, but you don't sound Indian. How did you go to England? And those were his exact words. He goes, how did you get there? And I was like, what? I was born here? Like, I didn't get here. I was born here. And he couldn't get his head around. He was like, how were you born there? Your name is Indian.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and you look Indian.
This is actually something that does wind me up. I'm just going to say it. I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm just going to say it. But I cannot stand it when people come from abroad and they come to the UK and they start their belly aching about how there's not enough integration over here. I'm like, are you kidding me? Our last Prime Minister was Indian.
Yeah.
What are you on about? It does my head in completely, because the entire immigrant population that comes to the UK and then belly aches about lack of integration, I think they're all hypocrites, because they're the same people that when they go back to their own countries, if there is somebody of a different colour walking down the street, they'd be looking at them like, oh, who's that? Where they come from?
I'll just draw on that as well. I know somebody who came from India to study in the UK, and she spent her whole time around Indian people who'd come here to study from India, and her entire experience was based on that. And then when she went back to India, she said, oh, Indians just stick to themselves. They don't integrate with the, indigenous population. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You chose not to do that.
Yeah.
That's not the norm. That's not what people tend to do.
Yeah.
They go to school. You're put in an educational environment where you have to speak to other people. You've got to get to know them from a very, very young age. So my best friend is not of South Asian descent.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you guys both have had many friends who are not either as well. So it's this entire observation that they have is completely, or they'll land at Heathrow and just say, oh, well, there's just all these brown people work at Heathrow. And it's like, you don't understand the complexities and the nuances of immigration.
Yeah.
But I do find that there is a difference between the different waves of immigration. And I can only comment on our wave of immigration. But this is how, I guess, we see it, the fact that we have made an effort. I wouldn't even call it an effort. It's just us living our lives.
I think our parents made the effort.
They made the effort.
They
We
made the
didn't really
effort.
make an effort.
I think for Mum, it must have been a more difficult change because Bar, having grown up in Africa, and then he went to India for uni. Then he went back. I can't remember the order, but he kept bopping around the world in it a little bit. So for him, it was probably a lot easier to kind of settle down in a place. Although the UK is very different to Africa or Asia, isn't it?
He had the language.
He had the language.
At a very, very basic level, he had the language, and he had family here already. So he could, he might. It wouldn't have been. Nothing can prepare you, as you would know, Shucks, for landing in a different country and making that your home permanently or temporarily. But yeah, he had a bit more of an insight. Mum came here with absolutely no frame of reference.
She's learnt the language here. She has, I think, her friend circle is only Caucasian people, I think, actually.
Yeah.
That is her friend circle. So Mum has made a massive effort to blend in, and she's done it really well. She's done it really well, So
she's taken to the food as well, which a lot of immigrants didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the very first wave when they had literally no options at all. Yeah. I'm talking about people when they have options and they've moved over here at a time where there is food available from different cultures and they only want to eat food from their own culture. Even our grandmother was open to trying Mexican food, everything that's available in the UK actually. So
Mexican,
Chinese food,
Thai,
anything.
Japanese, Italian, you name it. She if we had it, she had it. It was as simple as that. Like, she loved her food.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely come. I find it embarrassing when I do it, but I love food so much. Even today with the caterer, I was talking about food so much. So much. I was even like giving him ideas about what else he can do, and he was a bit on board with it, I have to say. I told him I'll have a cut if he takes my ideas on board. Yeah, but like the amount we know about cheese is insane.
Yeah.
The three of us know cheese, and Shreeya's vegan, for God's sake.
Hey,
like, it's ridiculous.
I know. I'll tell you what, I've got more vegan cheese options now than you lot do.
I'm sure. No, but I mean, you know about dairy cheese as well.
Yeah.
Like, we know cheese.
This is something else that also carries through our extended family. Again,
Yes.
You know who
love
you
for
are
food.
because I literally send you guys cheese memes. So you know who you are.
Yeah. We know food. We know food really well.
Although there are a lot of people in our wider circle who they've integrated in other ways, but they've probably not, that was their biggest hurdle, and they've not managed to get over that particular hurdle, and that's food.
Now that we've touched on food, that is something that I will talk about. So in our primary school, when we moved from the south of England, which was a lot more diverse and accommodating to a vegetarian diet, right? We were raised vegetarians. It was a lot more accommodating because of, the diversity in the population. When we came to the north, they were not able to understand what, in those days, what a vegetarian is. They would just assume that if you're vegetarian, you eat fish. So that was the most difficult part of the immigrant experience for me. Immigrant family. I mean, I'm not an immigrant, but we're British born and raised. But that was the most difficult part, that they were not understanding my dietary requirement, and my dietary requirement obviously comes from the cultural background that we come from, and there was nobody else apart from me and Dad in that school at that time who were vegetarians, and they used to try and give us fish cakes.
Fish
And
cakes,
then they
yeah.
would lie to us and say, "Oh no, it's
A
cheese." But we could
cheesecake.
smell it,
Yeah.
because obviously when you don't
Yeah.
identify something as food, like if someone tries to feed you a car,
Yeah.
right, you can't eat it. I know it's a bad example. I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head. I just thought car, because we were talking about cars today. So if someone tries to feed you something that you don't identify as food, you're going to reject it, right? Like, here,
Yeah.
eat your Apple Watch. It's actually an apple. You're not going to eat
Yeah.
it. You can't eat it. It's not food. It's not food to you, right?
Yeah.
So fish was not food to us, and it smelled alien to us. You know, it just wasn't right, so we wouldn't eat it. So that was a whole thing that happened. They had to call. They thought we had like
Eating
problems,
disorders.
eating disorders.
Yeah.
The bar had to come in, like one parent had to come in and monitor why we're not eating, and it was really awful. That was actually an awful
It was.
experience. But then the school did make an effort to understand what is going on, because we were the first Indian and vegetarian family that had entered this school. So they did make a huge effort
Yeah.
to fix it. So by the time Shreeya came to the school, it was all sorted, wasn't it?
Pretty much. There was a few bumps here and there, but yeah, pretty much they had it.
Just drawing on what the biggest challenges of the immigrant experience was for us individually, I would say it was having stricter parents than my peers.
Oh yeah,
and that was in the north of England. When we lived down south, everybody was in the same boat. But
yeah,
like not being able to go to sleepovers, I can get on board with that actually, because I don't know at what point I'll be ready to send my kids out to
yeah.
sleepovers and things like that. But not giving the rational reason as to why as well.
Yes.
It's like, you can't do this because you can't do it, because I've told you you can't do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
why am I the only one who's left out of this experience? It was like that also when it came to TV. We were on a tight leash when
Yeah.
it came to watching TV.
Yeah.
So no soaps for us at all. We were not allowed to watch soaps unless they were Indian daily soaps, and that was only when we were a lot older and we
Yeah.
finally got cable.
And that was because, frankly, Mum and our grandma wanted to watch them, so they would be on
Yeah.
television.
Yeah.
Therefore, we could, watch them indirectly, but it wasn't really anything that kind of took our fancy, was it?
No, we didn't get on with that at all, but we used to always get told off when we tried to sneakily watch extra episodes of Nickelodeon and Trouble. But this was much later.
And Hollyoaks as well. When
oh my
Hollyoaks
God.
first started, we used to like sneakily watch Hollyoaks, because it was Hollyoaks at the time was quite like young, and it was good at that time, right?
Yeah,
it was good when it first started out. Now I'm not sure. I've not seen it in ages. About 15 years I've not watched Hollyoaks.
But EastEnders, Corrie, never. We couldn't be involved in the classroom chatter about, oh, did you watch this last night?
But I think this is specific to our parents,
our family, yeah.
Specifically,
but it's just an example
household
of the strictness, because like we weren't. I know for other people, their families were very strict about things like wearing makeup, or for girls, and wearing certain clothing, which I don't think we had too much of a challenge.
Or the most ridiculous one for me still,
and the entire thing about talking to boys and having boys as friends. Again, I don't think that was anything that was explicitly said to us. It was implied that we couldn't have boyfriends, maybe, but it was never said to us specifically that you may not have friends who are boys. Whereas I think a lot of other girls were told that.
And this is the most funny thing about it, right? Is that growing up is, oh no, stay away from boys, because obviously, I mean, it must be scary raising 3 girls. I think that's quite, where are your girls going and who are they hanging out? I get that, and I get that both of our parents were in full-time jobs, so they were not able to monitor exactly who we're talking to, who we're chatting with. So let's just give them a blanket rule of stay away from boys, which is hilarious, because after they'd graduated, they finally decided, she should get married. The first thing our grandma said to her was, "Did you not find a boyfriend at university?"
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
Was that allowed? When did you tell me that was an okay thing to do?
But it's just hilarious. I mean, it just shows that they just kind of said things in the moment, and they were babies raising babies, weren't they? They're all really young.
I think that's very universal. I think everyone had kids very, very young, and when you're new to a country, new to a culture, raising little kids, I can imagine everything being very, very scary.
Yeah.
And it's no less scary now, I must admit. As a mother, I am a lot older than our parents were when they had us, and I'm still scared for my kids.
And you know what? There was a lot of stuff that was going on at that time as well. If you remember, there were documentaries that come out about grooming gangs.
Yeah.
and which is still a topic today.
It's still going on.
It's not been sorted out yet. It's still not been sorted, but at the time it was quite a big deal. Like there was talks on it. There was a BBC documentary out about it, about how
I think it
Indian
got banned.
girls. Yeah, I think the documentary got banned. But it was specifically about how Indian girls are targeted by these grooming gangs. So obviously that's going to put a lot of fear. And back in those days, there wasn't as much information going around as there is now. So if you see a documentary on something, that means that is what is happening in the world. You don't see anything else, right?
Yeah.
You just see what is in that tunnel vision, what's on that one channel or one of the 4 channels that is on TV. I can't remember if there was the 5th channel by then, but one of the 4 or 5 channels that are on at the minute, and that's the main thing that's coming on television right now, is that grooming gangs. So obviously you're going to have a bit of a tighter leash because, I mean, they were worried about raising kids in a different country and how we're all going to turn out in this hybrid environment. It is understandable, and I think
We all did fine.
Yeah, I think Mum and Dad did a really good job with us. Actually, I think we've all turned out really well, and if we do say so ourselves.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of that's down to the communication, the fact that we were brought up very aware of our culture. So if anyone did ever attack us, we could actually defend ourselves really well.
Yeah, verbally.
Someone said verbally, obviously, sorry. No. I started fighting, got my boxing gloves on. No, we're not violent.
We could answer back, basically.
We're very tiny.
Yeah.
As we've said. But verbally we could hold our own if someone kind of attacked us in any verbal way. So I think from that perspective we were good. There's one other point I want to touch on though. Thing that I think we've failed at is being more kind of integrated amongst each other, like the immigrant community. We do still have our own little pockets of immigrants. However well we're integrated with the local people, but there is a very much us and them within the immigrant community, which I think is a massive failing on our part. We should have perhaps thought we're all in the same boat. There's lots of different cultural reasons why there is that divide, or religious reasons why there's that divide, but I do think it's a shame that there is a divide.
Yeah, it is a shame, and it's all really petty. It's over petty nonsense, isn't it? And it's all stuff that doesn't even affect us in the grand scheme of things. It's all the older generations that have had bad experiences or whatever, and they've kind of...
It's that generational trauma that's just been passed on, and we still have the kind of burden of that. But I just hope things improve in the future. We always seem to end on this note, like maybe it'll be better in the future. Let's hope it is, and let's hope we've not gone on like too far into this like regression that we can't pull back and go back to the simpler times where people are a bit more considerate about each other. I think it's more about the consideration towards another human.
It is, but you know what I've realised in life, and again we spoke about this in a different podcast, is that everything happens in cycles.
Yeah,
and this is just another cycle that we got to see out. It is getting bad. I do feel like it's getting bad. But at the same time, I don't know if it's social media, because maybe all this stuff used to happen back in the day, but it's only coming to notice now because we have access to the information, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if it is getting bad. Maybe it's the nature of the universe, which is that everything happens in cycles.
The good thing is, though, there's a lot more representation. We grew up without any real role models that were visible,
that we can
were
relate
of our
to.
background.
Yeah, that we can relate to.
That were of our background specifically.
Yeah.
And my kids now have a former prime minister they can look up to. Like, it's possible. These things are possible, things that seemed almost impossible for us.
Yeah.
I remember watching TV and thinking, I don't think I'll ever see anyone who looks like me on the telly in a normal, like, British TV show. And I've got Bridgerton with 2 Indian girls. Well, one of them's, I think, Sri Lankan. But 2 South Asian girls.
South Asian, yeah.
Representing.
I think Harry Potter's let us down, though. They've cast somebody...
Harry Potter, I can't even talk about.
They've cast somebody who's not South Asian as Parvati Patel, which is really unbelievable in this day and age, because everybody's getting so much backlash. For example, the whole thing that happened with Snow White.
Yeah.
Why are you not casting dwarfs when they are dwarfs in the film? Why have you made them CGI? Why are you taking people's jobs?
When they are actors who are dwarfs that want to
do it.
Act. Yeah, they want to act. And these roles are written for these people specifically. Yeah. Like we said in another podcast as well, that they kind of adapt existing roles to suit a diverse population, whereas it's probably not needed.
Exactly.
Well, write better.
Yeah, and then when there is a part that is supposed to be an Indian character, why is it an Italian person? I mean, I'm sure she's a great actress and whatever, but like...
There was just a thing that I just remembered that happened very recently, which makes me feel really sad, and that's the really elderly gentleman in Leicester, or it was either in or near Leicester, who was attacked by teenagers.
Yes.
It was a racially provoked attack, and I can't believe that has happened in 2025.
It's stuff like this that makes you worried, isn't it?
Yeah, because I thought we'd moved way past that, and with that part of the world being as diverse as it is as well, that was particularly shocking. It wasn't like it was a very, very racist area or anything like that. And it's the fact that it's younger kids who did this.
Yeah.
That's what makes it particularly sad, I think. Gen Z are supposed to be the ones that are more woke.
That's what they say, but I mean, I think it all comes down to what we said before, that what are you being...
The influences.
Yeah, what is being said to you at home? What are you...
It's the narrative, and it's kind of like the very right-wing narrative that's being peddled by a lot of people, and making the assumption that all immigrants are illegal and they are all criminals and they do bad things and they want to destroy our culture, and people have labelled us as invaders, whereas quite frankly we're only here because you guys were there.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
We had nowhere else to go when South Asian people got kicked out of East Africa. We had nowhere else to go because we were British subjects. We couldn't go to India. We hadn't been there in generations. Where were we supposed to go?
There is a reason for why we're all on this little island. You know, we would have probably not found it.
And we do love it.
Yeah,
and we do love it.
But what are the chances we would have found this island? If it was, you know what I mean, we probably would have gone to a warmer place.
I don't think anyone understands the weather here, though. Like, does anyone understand the weather?
No. There were supposed to be thunderstorms today, but it was hot.
Yeah, man, it was a yellow warning.
There were thunderstorms today where I live.
They weren't over here.
We're in the same city, guys.
Exactly. They weren't over here. It was actually hot. Shreeya and I went to play tennis, right, in the morning. It was overcast. Then by the time we got home, it was hot.
Yeah.
Like red hot.
And this is early in the morning. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And then by 11 o'clock, I went outside to like Bar's tyre pressure was really low. So Mum and I went to go fill it up, like just outside with that machine. And it was hot. Like the back of my neck was burning. It was that hot.
Okay, it was raining intermittently all day here today, and we had thunderstorms. I was on a call with my boss, and he's like, "Oh, enjoy the storm." So it's very strange that we're in the same city and the weather's drastically different, 20 minutes apart.
Yeah, it's quite strange. But anyway, on that note, we'd like to hear about your lot's experiences and thoughts on this issue. I mean, there's not a lot we can really do about it, about the kind of cycle that's going on right now, except for just be more understanding of each other's cultures and all of that. But what were your funny and traumatizing immigrant experiences? Please tell us about that if you have come from an immigrant family. We have so many more we could have spoken about, but we've just kind of kept so many more. There's so many bizarro things, man, that we did. Honestly, we'll leave it at this.
But we love our food, we love our language, we love our culture, and we love everybody else as well.
Yeah.
We love everything else about
and we love this little hybrid culture that we've made as well. Accidentally. Let's wrap that up for today. Until next time, boys and girls.
Adios.
Bye.
Over and out.